Everyone loves a good underdog story, right? Watching a driver or team you don't expect to be doing well. It's one of the things that I love most about racing, as you never know who will cross the finish line first. And I'm pretty sure that not a single person, even the eventual winner himself, could have anticipated what would happen in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Road America on the 27th of August 2017. The race is the Johnsonville 180. Not entirely sure why 180 was decided as the number for the race, but hey, we'll gloss over that very quickly. A field of 40 stock cars would be unleashed around this 4-mile circuit, with Austin Cindric in the Penske Ford on pole, via pure speed alone. Actually, qualifying was cancelled due to inclement weather, thus the field being set by the rulebook, which I could talk about, but really I'd be talking for ages about something that ultimately doesn't matter. The 20 of occasional IndyCar driver James Davidson would line up alongside him on the front row, as the green flag waved. Davidson would not even take a whole corner before collecting the lead, a lead that he would keep for quite a while. Further down the order, William Byron would lose a few positions, in what turned out to be 3 RCR Chevrolets nicking off spots one by one on the eventual Hendrick Motorsports Cup driver. The first on-track incident would come on lap 4, with the 39 of Ryan Sieg clipping the wall at the famous kink after being on the outside of Dylan Lupton. A difficult weekend for Sieg, as his brother Shane, who also competed in NASCAR, passed away a week before the race. Scott Lagasse Jr. was having a decent race initially, but in attempting to make a move, would brake that bit too late, and would get stuck in a kitty litter at turn 3, bringing out the first caution of the race. Davidson would lead the restart and immediately pull a commanding gap, helped by a large wiggle for second placed Justin Marks. An assisted wiggle, shall we say. Good battles developed in the final few laps of Stage 1 across the field, typically great Xfinity Series road course racing. However, with all that going on behind, James Davidson was setting a composed and dominant performance so far, and would end up winning the first stage. Perhaps no major shocks in the top 10 other than Sheldon Creed for JD Motorsports in 10th place. Pit stops happened under caution, and things all seemed fairly normal, except one driver was too fast near the end of the pit lane. That driver was James Davison. So to the rear of the field he went at the upcoming restart, along with Cindric, who decided to get some damage repaired, hence why he dropped to the rear as well. With the front row now at the back, it allowed Chip Ganassi's Brennan Poole to be leading the restart for Stage 2. But it was on the second row with Daniel Hemric who would make the most ballsy move into turn 1, making it 3 wide for a brief period of time. He would get second, but Sadler's better line would initially give him the lead. Hemric would then immediately lose second just a couple of corners later. Ben Kennedy would get amongst the action with him being side by side with at least one car for over half of the lap at Road America. Side by side for around 2 miles, and it wasn't at a super speedway? Who needs Talladega or Daytona to make invigorating NASCAR races? A lap later, Christopher Bell would go off at the same corner Lagasse Jr. did, but would carry on. Sieg would be involved in more antics, with a puncture and the subsequent debris bringing out another caution. Sadler led the restart and would lead into turn 1, but I can't say the same thing coming out of turn 4, with Hemric going up on the inside and leading for the first time. Spencer Gallagher then spun a few corners later, and someone else who would also fall foul of issues would be the 13 NBM Motorsports Toyota of Ernie Francis Jr., who would retire through engine gremlins. And pretty major ones if that smoke is anything to go by. More great racing occurred throughout Stage 2, including some impressive performances from an underdog standpoint by Ross Chastain and JJ Yeley, although Ryan Reed would get into a spin at turn 1. Yet all the while, Davison was making a charge through the field, already climbing his way up to 8th place in his Jokers Racing Toyota. Whoa, hold on, why are we going obstacle course racing? Tim Cowan in the NBM Motorsports Dodge thought he'd try and unnecessarily prevent track limit infractions at the apex of the final corner. He would though get the car going again, but as they entered the final lap of Stage 2, disaster would strike some major contenders. In trying to pass Chastain, Justin Marks wasn't quite clear in the 42, getting snagged by the 4, careering into the helpless Davison, with the 20 then impacting the inside wall, then collecting the 22 of Cindric, spinning him around, with the 42 in turn also spinning into the tyres. The crash would put Davison out of the race, and compromise some of the other leading contenders, which then blew the race wide open. Daniel Hemric would win Stage 2, with JJ Yaley also doing an impressive job. A couple of drivers would stop under this caution: Justin Allgaier, Jeremy Clemens, and Cole Custer, to name a few. Or trio. The race resumed on lap 24 with Hemrick leading the restart. He would keep leading over Ben Kennedy until the pit stop sequences began on lap 28. However, if he thought that the pit stop went to plan, well, he was a bit too eager to serve his stop, and would have to serve a penalty on one of the most agonising pit lanes on the schedule. In theory not a race ender, but would certainly make things more difficult. As more stops were done, it would eventually end up with Jeremy Clemens leading the race, ahead of Michael Annett. But they would both need to make another stop to get to the finish before running out of go juice. However, if you enjoy an underdog story, then who cares if they had to stop again? Jeremy Clemens leading a race on a road course is a good enough story in itself. Of the cars that had stopped, Matt Tifft would pass Cole Custer for the effective race lead, and the tyres were degrading pretty quickly around this track, which may have put Tifft at a slight advantage with having 1 lap fresher tyres than Custer. May not sound like much, but on a 4-mile track which had all its rubber washed away pre-race, that could make a big difference. One thing that didn't make much difference was this off of the kink for Ryan Reed. Damaged and already way down the field, it was not a great day for the Roush Fenway Ford driver. Finally, with 10 laps remaining, Jeremy Clemens would make his stop, and so would Annett a lap afterwards. From these stops, naturally they tumbled down the order, with Clemens falling to 9th place. Okay, maybe not as far down as you'd have expected perhaps. Furthermore, in just 2 laps, Clemens climbed his way up through the field on fresh tyres to 3rd place, and passed Brendan Gaughan with a great outside pass for 2nd. Yet perhaps more impressively, despite fighting his way through the traffic, he was 2 seconds faster than the leader Matt Tifft. Could the shock really be on? A few drivers would have moments, including the 17 Rick Ware Racing Dodge of Nicholas Hammond, a winner of the GT Academy TV series, and Tim Cowan in the 40 once again, but they would carry on, keeping the green flag out. Clemens was noticeably gaining every lap, and was genuinely in contention for a win, for a team that was run by his family, an independent organisation completely unaffiliated with the juggernauts of the series like Joe Gibbs Racing, Richard Childress Racing, and was using a car that was made in 2008. If he were to pull it off, it would be the first time since David Gilliland won at Kentucky in 2006 for Clay Andrews Racing. All he had was 1 car to pass, and with 2 laps to go, he made his move down at turn 8, and couldn't quite pull it off. A quick mental reset later, and he was already on the back of Tifft at the end of the lap, and tried again. Clemens locked up the rear tyres, lost the back end, and collided with the 19, with both drivers spinning around, with Annett in 3rd a long way behind. Who would get going the quickest? Ultimately, the 51 would emerge from the smoke ahead of Tifft. British driver Stephen Young would have an issue, but really and truly I'm not sure that many people cared too much at this particular point, and despite more needless track limit protection solutions with Dylan Lupton, Clemens would win the Johnsonville 180 at Road America. An unbelievable result that would put him in the playoffs for the Xfinity Series. A result so unlikely that earlier on in the race, his name wasn't even up on the graphic. Yet there he was, doing burnouts in front of his team on the front stretch, celebrating his first career win after 255 starts. Some great images, one that every NASCAR underdog team can look up to, with belief that that could be them in the future. Yet, if we're being honest, this move in all likelihood would be given a penalty if it happened in most other racing divisions. Ultimately, Matt Tifft would be the driver who benefited in no way whatsoever from this, after he himself drove a pretty decent race given the strategy he was on. Clemens would apologise for the move, not that I'm sure it was of much consolation to Tifft. To me though, this doesn't detract from the achievement that Clemens and his team pulled off. This race wasn't a restrictor plate track where smaller independent teams are a bit more competitive. This was on a road course, done in the dry and with minimal caution interference. A great strategy call undoubtedly helped them, but the car had to have handled well, as other smaller teams were on the same strategy and were a fair way off Jeremy by the time they made their stops. This wasn't down to luck, or great instinctive driving like Jeremy's other win at Daytona in 2022, but on pure speed, which makes this victory all the more incredible. To me, this is one of the biggest David vs Goliath stories racing has seen in the 21st century, and I wonder if the Xfinity Series will ever see anything like this happen again. That though is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. What are your thoughts on Jeremy Clemens' victory? Say down in the comment section below. However, until the next video, be kind to each other and enjoy the rest of your day.